Hey everyone, James Reeves with TFBTV. It is noon on Sunday, June 7. I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana, and Tropical Storm Cristobal is bearing down on us, gearing up for a direct hit. As you guys can see, getting a little bit of rain already. So I was like, screw it. Why don't I grab this Glock 17? And by the way, this specific Gen 5 Glock 17, I have beaten the piss out of over the years. I've thrown this in a bayou and shot it. I've put it in a sand chamber and shot it. This is the one that I froze to like -80 to -100 degrees and also shot it. Why not chain it up in the backyard and see how it holds up for a tropical storm? So I'm gonna keep it locked up out here for 24 hours and assuming, I mean, it's just a tropical storm, how bad can it be? But assuming everything is still on the up and up, tomorrow to come out here, grab this thing, we're gonna take it to the range and shoot it, see how it does. But I'm gonna say if this thing gets beat by a tropical storm, I'm gonna be blown away. This Glock's been out here in the tropical storm for 2 days, if you can believe that. Let's see how it looks. All right. Oh, check that out. Got a little bit of rust in the barrel. Ooh, more than a little bit. Quite a bit, actually. Before we get to the range, can we take a couple steps back and appreciate that right now all of us are probably thinking 2 days in weather, in extreme weather, a tropical storm, exposed to the elements. For a Glock 17, that should be no sweat. Seriously, I'm not expecting any surprises taking it to the range. Yes, this gun's made of metal. Yes, there was a little bit, actually a lot of bit of rust in the barrel, even though I wasn't sure what caused it. But before I fired it, I wanted to find out. So I grabbed a high visibility polymer hydrophobic Glock vessel and I put the Glock inside of that, tossed it in my car, and I headed over to Gretna Gunworks, where perhaps the greatest gunsmith to ever live in Gretna, Louisiana, Henry. Henry was there and sober actually at the time, I think. And he was ready to check out my Glock 17 and tell me what he thought.
You're not gonna run a patch through it?
No, just gonna shoot it. Am I gonna die if I do that?
Oh, it might blow up.
Didn't really seem like Henry was concerned about my safety.
Oh, it might blow up.
The question I posed to Henry was, is that the barrel rusting? Or is that something like metal deposits from expended projectiles, like bullet residue, for lack of a better term, building up in the rifling?
You know, I think that's, I think it's just water.
Okay, so you think that it may not even be the barrel?
Look,
Henry said in his opinion it was just rusty water and that the barrel wasn't rusting, perhaps caused by metal deposits. I mean, he ran one patch through the Glock 17 barrel. It came out the other side, had rust on it, and then, you know, you look at it and it was actually sparkling clean and fine on the inside. So the rust may have just been something caused by the water interacting with maybe residue that was already present in the barrel, because I never clean this gun. I feel like I should mention again, this is a gun that's been sub-zero frozen, thrown into a bayou put in a sand chamber, and I think I've cleaned it maybe one time. It's got thousands of rounds through it, so this gun's already pretty well beat up. Henry did make a comment that maybe if there were any lasting surface imperfections in the rifling or in the barrel, if there was surface rust that we didn't actually get out by swabbing the barrel with that one patch, that it's probably going to essentially shoot itself smooth again, shoot itself clean. So we took it down to the basement where the range is. I set up the slow-mo camera and we took the first shots out of the Glock 17 after being left for 2 days in a tropical storm. All right guys, ready to go hot? Real good. Have it. The Glock ran perfectly. I put a box of Federal Syntech, the 150 grain Federal Syntech. Again, big plug for Federal. They're a sponsor of the program. Syntech is my stuff because it's got the polymer jacket on it. So you have reduced lead exposure, reduced wear and tear in your barrel. Love this stuff. Enough about that. I put a box, so 50 rounds of Federal Syntech and then another 10 rounds of Fiocchi through the gun. 60 rounds, no failures, and it ran almost perfectly. And here's why I want to say almost perfectly. The first target I shot was target number 1. Look at that group. So that group at 25 to 30 feet was like about hand size. Pretty big for a full-size pistol. I was in fact surprised. It gave me pause whenever I saw this target. I was like, what the hell, man? Like, am I getting rusty? Are we worried about the Glock getting rusty, or is it me? Is it me that's getting rusty? So I load up another mag, second group on target number 2, much tighter. Then I load up a third mag, the third target, much tighter. But I shot 6 targets, and after maybe the second or third target, they were all pretty tight after that. 10 rounds rapid fire, so just casual offhand shooting. But they were generally good groups, where the first one was by far the worst. The first plausible explanation, and in my opinion the most likely, is that I just walked in there cold and I shot 10 rounds. My first 10 were, me warming up, and then I warmed up my second, third, fourth group. However, for me, it's usually the inverse. Whenever I walk into a range cold, I haven't felt recoil. So it's like I'm not developing that subliminal urge to push down, to flinch into the gun. So I usually feel like my first group tends to be my better group. You also have to consider that first group doesn't look like a warm-up group. It's like 2 times the size as every other group on the paper, maybe 3 times the size as the tightest group. It isn't like that was a warm-up, 10 rounds, and then boom, all of a sudden. I suppose the second plausible explanation is what Henry suggested, and that is that maybe there was some surface rust still on there, that maybe the surface was still rough. Let's assume that's the case. Let's assume that's what happened. There was a shitload of rust in the barrel, and then the first 10 rounds, maybe first 20 rounds, shot it smooth. If that were true, really, is that much rust in the barrel going to have that drastic of a difference at 10 yards or less in a handgun? I would surmise not, which is why I think my first explanation, maybe it was cold and I just shot a bad target. If you guys have any theories, feel free to go ahead and share them in the comments. Really, the best way to test it would be to have that Glock 17 and to try to somehow procure, and I may do this in the future, like a pitted, rusty-ass barrel, and then swap them out and see how the accuracy changes. That would have been the way to test it, and maybe I'll do that in a follow-up video. But there it is. I mean, I just left a Glock 17 that was already freaking filthy, already abused, left it outside in a tropical storm for 2 days. It ran fine. There was a little bit of surface rust in the barrel, but that came out with one patch, and I'm not sure that was actually the barrel rusting as much as it was things in the barrel rusting. Do I pay Glock a piss load of service on this channel? Absolutely, I do. But this is why. Because these guns are durable. Could you do this with a Smith & Wesson M&P? Probably. Could you do this with a SIG P320? Probably. Could you do this with a Springfield XD and it would still work after being out in a tropical storm for 2 days? Probably so. I would assume all of those guns would probably work as well. So I'm not here saying like, oh my God, look at this Glock, the best gun in the entire world. I mean, it kind of is, but it does it again. The Glock does it again. I'm not saying that other guns couldn't do this. I'm just impressed. Can I just be excited that modern auto-loading polymer frame handguns can withstand this sort of abuse, go to the range, and not skip a beat? I'm just thrilled with that. It isn't about Glock. It isn't about any particular brand, make, model. It's about the fact that guns are awesome and that modern handguns are awesome. And that's why I love doing this job. I also love our sponsors, Ventura Munitions and Top Gun Supply. Top Gun Supply, your online shooting sports superstore, not to mention Blue Alpha Gear, my buds over there making great belts. And if you need ammo, make sure to check out Ventura Munitions. Of course, our Patreon supporters. These guys get access to VIP only chat rooms where I make an appearance regularly, unless you don't want me to, in which case you can put me on mute or I'll just go away. But if you're at the $5 or the $10 level, you're also automatically entered to win one of, at this point, 4 guns. We're giving away 4 guns a month or gift certificates to Top Gun Supply. This drawing is not in any way affiliated with YouTube, but you're automatically entered into that drawing if you're at the $5 or the $10 level on our Patreon or Subscribestar pages. Please do us a favor, if you like this content, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you Daddy Gaston for making the Glock 17. Guys, stay tuned. I'll see you next week.